time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and this is another horrible game review. Super excited about this one today. Been waiting for this one for a long time, but before we get into it, we've got to do a couple of disclaimers. Number one, the word horrible in the title of this content does not necessarily refer to the game or DLC that I am in fact reviewing. Instead, it refers to the quality of this review itself. I do snap judgment reviews here. I try to get about 5 to 10 hours with the game, and I'm just trying to give you an idea whether you're going to enjoy it right off the rip or not. With that in mind, I don't give scored reviews either, because I don't believe in them. I feel video games are one of the most subjective forms of art, so therefore I will give you the overview of what the game or DLC is. I will then tell you the pros and the cons, in my point of view, as all reviews are, and then I'll tell you whether I personally will be sticking with it after the purposes of this review or not. That rigmarole out of the way, I am reviewing Mr. X Nightmare, the Streets of Rage 4 DLC, the only DLC that I know of for the game, and possibly the only DLC we're ever going to get for it. That in mind, what Mr. X's Nightmare is a pinpoint strike of content as opposed to a overwhelming barrage of stuff. This is more like a direct attack at what the game needed as a whole, instead of just a ton of modes and content to deal with. With that said, we're going to go through it all. I am going to skip the overview of what the game is, the normal base game is, as I already did a review on Streets of Rage 4. I urge you to check that out, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to stick to what this DLC is. With that in mind, if you have not played through Streets of Rage 4 and care at all about the spoilers, you should stop watching this video until you either play through it or watch my other review. In any case, moving on, what this is a couple of things. Number one, it's 3 new characters, 3 brand new characters added to the game. And brand new is a little bit of a loose term, we'll get into that. And then a new mode called Survival Mode. In addition to that, there's also some small but interesting fundamental changes to all of the characters across the board, but everything seems to come from Survival Mode. So let's talk about Survival Mode. First, Survival Mode, they actually worked it into the story, which is interesting as opposed to just adding a mode, but basically what it is a procedurally generated random kind of room challenge. It turns Streets of Rage 4 into kind of its own little roguelike. With that in mind, what you do, or what the base story is that after the events of Streets of Rage 4, the Y siblings are defeated and the city's at peace again, the original characters plus a couple of new characters decide to get ready for anything that could challenge them in the future, and anything is a pretty tall order considering that the Y twins actually had mind control. So with that in mind, they have Dr. Zin. Ooh, I think I said his name wrong. Dr. Zan. Basically, who, for some reason, I want to understand the specifics of this, has what remains of Mr. X's brains. He has them, and he uses them to create an AI system that basically just constantly creates insane simulations in a virtual space. The characters then go into the virtual space and see how much they can deal with before they get knocked out. I do appreciate that they worked it in this story, although I think the story behind it is kind of totally batshit crazy. It left a little bit more questions for me than answers, like what was Dr. Zahn doing with Mr. X's brain just hanging out? And why did he have just a chunk of the guy's brain? What happened to the rest of the brain? Like, stuff like that. Kind of gave me the willies. And, you know, Mr. X was a terrible evil villain. I don't know if he deserves this, nonetheless. Aside from that kind of weird story beat they decided to enter in, what the mode is you pick a character, you can play 2 people online, I believe you can play 4-player co-op locally, however, I have not tried either of those, just keep that in mind. And then you can either do a random sim or a weekly sim. Now, the random sim is completely random. It generates the room, and it generates the bad guys, and it generates the stuff. Obviously, the earlier rooms kind of are easier, and the other rooms get harder, but that doesn't really always hold true because the actual situational traps spawn completely random from what I can tell. And this ranges the full gambit, from little buttons that can bring down mashers to ancient temples with booby traps, wind that throws your character back and forth, rain that makes them slippery, flamethrowers, cliffs, wrecking balls, alien heads, anything you can think of can get dropped into this, which is really interesting and keeps it fresh for every room that you go into. The room then spawns one of two things, either a boss fight, which doesn't happen right away, that's usually set after a few rooms, I didn't count, or it spawns a number of waves. Once you defeat either or, a new portal appears that you can walk through, plus a couple of perks. These perks are anything. You can get digitalized guys to fight with you, to electrified or toxic attacks, to missile barrages, to extra jumps, to just total craziness, which allows for really interesting and crazy builds. After you select a perk, you go through your portal, you move on to the next room, and you just keep going till you die. Now, what I mean by die is you don't get a normal amount of lives in this. You get one life bar. When that life bar gets depleted, the simulation is over. With that in mind, though, with the bad guys spawns things to knock open to collect those juicy ground fruits and meats that give you health back. So a lot of times I found myself at full health by the time I moved on to the next platform anyway, as long as I managed to get through it. Your star ability, your super attacks, are given to you via score. So every so many points you get a star to just kind of like clear the room. So that's an interesting level to it as well. And then you just kind of go through it. What's interesting about this, though, is as you play through it, as you get farther and farther, you unlock new alternative maneuvers for all of the characters, the new ones and the old ones alike. And I'm not talking about just the old ones from the game. I mean, every one of those unlockable retro characters have new moves that you can unlock, and you can switch them out in the story as well, anywhere you can. Get it? I mean, it's very interesting. Also, it should be noted that there are retro levels that spawn in the 16-bit kind of form, which I thought was a nice touch. Same with the bad guys. It was very interesting to take on bad guys from Streets of Rage 2 and Streets of Rage 3 all at the same time. On the other hand, you have the weekly sim, which basically is a curated escapade. I don't know how long it goes, but all the bad guys, the maps, and the perks are selected in advance by the developers. So you know what you're getting every time you go in, and the farther you get, the farther you know what's coming next, which is interesting. It actually gives you a reason to practice for it, and these go up for about a week. Well, they go up for a week, and then they change into something else, which I think is really interesting. This adds a level of replayability to Streets of Rage 4 that it was really missing, and a lot of people complained about. In addition to all this, one final mention is the training mode. They added a very in-depth training mode that is just absolutely wonderful. You can go through all the tricks, spawn bad guys, spawn anything you want to fight with. Plus, you get detailed report cards at the end of the survival mode, and as you fight them in survival mode, you can actually put them in the training mode to train against them to see what they're going to do, which is really cool. It allows you to really come to understand your character as well as the bad guys that you're going to face. It adds a level of practice to this game that it just didn't have before, and I really enjoyed that. Alright, let's transition, because that's all that they added. That's all they added. Like I said, this was a pinpoint strike of quality content. They basically, you could tell, they took what people wanted to see, what people wanted in this game, and they did specifically that instead of just overwhelming us with content. This has goods and bads and pros and cons, which we're about to get into. So what are the pros? Well, number one, with a bullet, just like the last time, is the music. The music is absolutely amazing. I don't care what any other outlet says. It's absolutely phenomenal. You know, IGN actually bashed them for their music in Streets of Rage 4, and I cannot disagree with more. And, you know, eye the beholder and all that. Some people, it's not going to be their bag, just that's the way it is. But I love the tracks in this almost more than I like the tracks in the original game. Really enjoy it, and the music seems to thump in and give you that kind of extra burst of adrenaline just when you need it in the game, and I love that about it. Number 2, replayability. Look, the complaints were there. The one thing about Streets of Rage 4 in the main game that was a little irritating is there's very little reason to replay it. I mean, you play through the whole thing, you level up, you unlock the special characters and all that, which is nice, I'm not saying it's not, but eventually you're just running the same levels over and over and over again and doing a score attack over and over and over again. It just gets a little stale. There's nothing new to it, there's nothing fresh to it. I have the whole game memorized at this point. I know just about every bad guy, where every turkey is, and that just it made it to the point where I just didn't want to go through it again. I've always wanted to stream this game, and I never could. I streamed it once, I beat the game, and I felt like anytime I would go back to it, it would just be me playing through the game again. Well, this changes that. The survival mode allows you this kind of open newness every time you walk into it. Is it going to get old? I'm sure it is. But just the fact that there's constantly something new in it, the game is just constantly developing and giving you something new to deal with, is just great. Plus, there's a whole new series of things to unlock with every character, which is really awesome, and it also gives you that reason to play the other characters instead of just one character over and over again that you're good at. Really enjoyed that about this, and it made it so that I can stream this game. I can stream it and it'll always feel at least a little bit new to anybody watching it. Number 3, new moves. The new moves that the characters get are all really cool so far. Everything that I've unlocked has been interesting, and not one of them has made me think, oh man, I like the original one better. Every one has been a Sophie's choice of, do I take the devil I know, or do I try this really cool new thing that I just saw? Each move kind of redesigns the character while not redefining the wheel. You can still play the character with success if you're used to them with that move, but that move gives it a different dynamic feel when you switch those moves up. And honestly, one of the things that I've wanted in a game like this forever is a character creator, and this gets us just a step closer. I think this is one step away from custom characters in a Streets of Rage game, and that's what I want more than anything itself. So I'm all for those new moves, and I really enjoy it. Alright, let's go ahead and move into the cons. And there are some cons. I know I'm a huge Streets of Rage 4 fan. I've been one on the channel, and I know not all of you out there agree with me. But I try to look at it as neutrally as humanly possible. And that's why I didn't do the review for this right after I did my first stream. I waited, I let it sit, and I really tried to think about what's wrong with this game. And there are some stuff wrong with this edition. First and foremost, there is no new story content. I know. They did give us the survival mode, and that's basically constant content on itself, but at the same time, it still boils down to a glorified training thing for your characters. You get these 3 new characters and nothing new to do with them. I would have liked just a couple new maps, just a couple new additions to the mission, even if it was just like a quick 4-map thing. It would have been really nice to have just a little bit of new content to play in the game. Look, I'm not complaining. I am enjoying what they have, but again, a pinpoint strike of things that they needed to do with this game to make it more replayable and breathe some life into it is great, but wouldn't we all like just a little bit more? And I would. I'd like a little bit more reason to go back to the actual story itself. Everything in this game comes from the survival mode, which is con number 2. Con number 2 is that the alternative moves that you unlock can be used anywhere. They can be used in the training, the boss battles, they can be used in the story mode, anywhere. But you have to unlock them in survival mode. Which means that if I take one of those new characters, or even one of the old characters, into story mode, I'm not gaining any experience points towards unlocking those moves. And that's kind of a bummer. Why can't... Because not everybody is going to want to play the procedural thing. Some people are going to like that warm blanket of the original storyline map. Why can't they just unlock their moves their way? So, for me, it's not a problem because I like survival mode so much that I plan on playing it with every character. But at the same time, I think overall, they would have benefited from allowing us to gain the experience points for those characters in the normal story mode as well. My last big con is no new original character. Now look, You're about to say, Zach, we got 3 new characters. We did. We did. We get 3 new playable characters. However, these characters already existed in the game as bosses. We got Estelle Aguirre, Shiva, and Old Max. And let me tell you, I love all 3 of the characters. I think they're really interesting. I think they play differently. They have their own play styles, which is hard to do when you already had 5 original characters there. That being said, how cool would it be to get a completely new, random, original character? Just somebody just off the wall and fresh-faced. I understand that maybe you don't want to bust that out until Streets of Rage 5 or something like that, but as cool as it is to get 3 new playable characters, I would have loved them to give us something original instead of just 3 of the bosses that were already in the game. Again, I want to remind everybody, I wanted to play as these characters. I'm very happy these characters are now in the game. I don't want anybody to at me like, oh, you don't care about the new characters. No. I love the new characters. Estelle, Shiva, and Max are great. But I would have liked to see a completely fresh, brand new character. Something that we hadn't seen before, I think would have been really cool. So whether or not I'm going to stick with it, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to stick with it. Guys, I don't know if you noticed how excited I was for 4, how much I love 4. Now I have a whole new reason to play it, and I can stream it, and it can be fun and exciting for the people watching it. I'm all about survival mode. I will be streaming it Tuesday nights, as many Tuesday nights as I can muster. I love Streets of Rage 4, and I loved this DLC. Did it give us everything we want? No, but rarely anything does. It gave us everything we needed, and that was more important. So, I love Mr. X Nightmare. I really, really, really hope that Lizard Cube gives us one more DLC that's just crazy and off the wall. Maybe not even characters, maybe content, who knows. But even if this is the only thing we get, I'm very happy with it. So that's my review. I hope this made everything easier for you guys. Maybe you guys know whether you want to play it or try it. In any case, whether you want to yell at me, congratulate me, thank me, hate me, you can reach us at Old Man Gaming DH on Facebook, on Old Man Gaming 9 on Twitter. You can join our Discord. The link's in the description below. You can influence this in all of our shows from there. And as usual, guys, as long as you keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next time.